Hello and welcome to a new Carbide Vanguard Overdress video. So, I really like the anime so far, right? Like, I feel like I need to open with that. You know, it's only been 2 episodes, so obviously there's no, like, concrete, definitive, like, it is good opinion, anything like that, because of course it's too early on. But so far, I'm really enjoying what I've been seeing. And because of that, I've liked interacting with the discussion around it. However, there's definitely been a couple of things in specific that have been dominating, I guess, the discourse or discussion around it. And the complaint I hear the most about Vanguard Overdress is I don't know how to play the card game, thus I don't know what's happening in this show. Actually, no, I'm joking. That's not what the most common complaint is. I just free for a loop there. The most common complaint I've heard is, actually, I do know how to play the card game and thus can follow along with the card fights, but they should have put a tutorial in there anyway for new fans. And before we get into that, first of all, I do want to put a light, obviously my subscribers are fairly rational and don't tend to get super duper angry at people for having other opinions. Whenever my subscribers disagree with me, they usually do it in a joking way. But I do need to preface this with, hey, opinion video, people seem to make this their hill to die on, and I just want to say, hey, I'm not willing to die on this hill, so you probably shouldn't either. And let's get into some background about Vanguard and its tutorials. So, when Vanguard was first created, it was sort of a rival to Yu-Gi-Oh! In some ways it still is. It's definitely done a good job of kind of differentiating itself from Yu-Gi-Oh! And in fact, that's something it's done from the start. In fact, I'm just going to put some images, by the way. They're not going to add much to the video, but I need some background noise, right? Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was Duel Monsters specifically. I know Series 0 is a thing, but let's talk about Duel Monsters. Duel Monsters' first episode does a good job of introducing Duel Monsters as what it is, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has always been a fantasy anime first, right? Like, it's always focused on fantastical and supernatural and weird, outlandish things happening. And so you have an episode where Sao Kaiba, assaults Yugi's grandfather and tears his card in half, and then Yugi inexplicably turns into a bigger version of himself, which is explained both in Series 0 and the later episodes of Duel Monsters, but if I'm correct, it is not explained until it actually happens in the first episode. So you just kind of left there going, what is happening? And then he mind crushes him, and it's a good episode, right? But it's very out there and weird, and a lot of different things are happening. And so Carbide Vanguard was like, okay, gonna take a step away from that, and to separate ourselves and give ourselves a bit of a different identity, they went for a 2-parter episode that was largely focused on a tutorial card fight. This was genius. I think we can all agree this was fairly genius, because Vanguard was a brand new card game, and so we're going to introduce it strong by making sure everyone who sees our anime is very familiar with the card game, right? And so we're going to just teach people how to play. But also, it kind of shows the more slower paced slice of life tone that series was trying to achieve. Whether you like it or not, most people liked it. But whether you like it or not, that series was trying to be slow and down to earth. And so, how do we get any more slower and more down to earth in our first 2 episodes than by basing pretty much the entirety of it by having one character just teach the game to the other character? That is the plot of those 2 episodes. There's a little bit more going on, but fundamentally that's what those episodes are. And they work. They do a pretty good job of what they're doing. And then the reboot does the same thing, except worse. But I'm not going to go into my reboot rant for this video. I can't be bothered. But yeah, and this works primarily is, like I said, a tone setter. It separates itself from a lot of its competitors. And it shows what this series will be. Very slow, very card game focused, very slice of lifey. You get the idea. Which is very different to Yu-Gi-Oh, right? At least Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. And again, it does a good job of introducing you to a brand new card game, a brand new product that's only just releasing. Okay, cool. We can agree that works. We can agree on why that works. Good, because we kind of need to be on the same page when I talk about Overdress. Because Overdress is different. Overdress is not new. Well, Overdress itself is new, but Vanguard is not new anymore. It's been around for 10 years now. It's not a new product that you need to get too many people very, very familiar with, because there's already a lot of people familiar with it, right? And we'll get further in depth with that later, don't worry. But also it's shorter. It's a lot shorter. This first kind of part section, I'm struggling to call it a season, because from what I've heard, the other 13 episodes that are coming in autumn are also part of season 1, but I don't know how that works, whatever. But it's short. The original Vanguard, I don't know whether or not they knew from the very beginning that it was going to be 200 episodes, but it ended up being 200 episodes, and they must have known they'd have a lot more than just 12 episodes to work with. So we're like, hey, you know what? First 2 episodes, having it be a tutorial, we have time, we have time to kill. And kill that time they did. In a lot of episodes, actually. Not only do they have the tutorial card fight very often, but also they waste time doing other dumb shit in a lot of other episodes. I really like the first season of Vanguard, but it did not need to be 60 episodes long. I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, they have time to kill, and so killing that time by teaching people how to play, that sounds great. Overdress does not have time to kill, right? Now, of course, you could argue, but just make it longer, but that's not how the anime industry works. Just make it longer is not a solution, because the length of the series determines a lot of factors about it, such as who's going to animate it, both in terms of the studio and the staff, how it's going to be paced script-wise, who's going to do the designs, Clamp, and so on and so forth, and budgetary things and all that other stuff. It's not as simple as just take the Sakuga scene from episode 1 out and now make it a long run and use that budget to make it a long-running series. That's not how it works. That's never been how it works. If Overdress was planned to be a long-running series like this, then everything about it would be different, and I don't know if I want to get into that. You just have to trust me. Yeah, Overdress was made from the ground up to be the series that it was, basically. They made it knowing that it was going to be created in the way that it was, and because of that, they don't have very much time to work with, which you may say is a stupid limitation, and they should have just made a longer anime from the first place, and that's something that we can spend literal hours discussing, and I can't wait to do so, but I need to make this video short to convey my point. Basically, they don't have much time, which is a limitation, but also I would argue that the other Vanguard animes being so long is another limitation, because it means that it's not as easy to recommend, and that's kind of my point. Overdress is beginner friendly. No matter what anyone else says, I believe it is. It does not teach you the card game. We're not even going to pretend it does, because it doesn't. But it is beginner friendly in a different way to the other Vanguard animes. The other Vanguard animes are beginner friendly because they have the tutorial, right? You watch it, and as a tutorial, you learn to play. That's how it's beginner friendly. But you know how it's not beginner friendly? The animation sucks. I'm sorry if that makes you angry, but in the 2011 Vanguard anime, the animation sucks. That's what I think. And also, it's like 200 episodes, and also, whenever I recommend it to anyone, I say, you gotta wait until the Link Joker arc, which is like 100 episodes in, until it actually gets good. And so, yes, it may be beginner-friendly in the way that it teaches you how to play the card game, but it is not beginner-friendly in, actually trying to get beginners to try it. Vanguard Overdress is beginner-friendly in the exact opposite way, right? It's beginner-friendly because it's super easy to recommend. In fact, I have successfully recommended this show to a lot of people who have never really interacted with Vanguard or been all that interested in it before. I've had people who I have tried to get into Vanguard. I've successfully got them into Vanguard because of this. This is very beginner-friendly. Seriously, try this test out for yourself. Take a group of friends that have never been into Vanguard before, but you want to get into Vanguard. Split that group of friends in half, recommend one half of them the 2011 Vanguard anime, recommend the other half Overdress. See which group of friends are more enthusiastic to try Vanguard. I dare you. And no, genuinely, if you do that, do it. No, seriously, I want you to do that. I genuinely want to know how that pans out for you. Make that a video, even. I genuinely want to see the results of that. But basically, I can say from my own experience, recommending Vanguard to friends and stuff, that Overdress is far easier to recommend and far easier to get people in the door. Regardless of your opinion of the anime or quality or the tutorial, whatever. And this is actually why not having a tutorial is good, because it makes the series very fast-paced. It's very character-focused, it's very focused on a nice animation, it's got a pretty good story so far, and the card fights don't drag it down. Whenever they had a card fight in the old series, it grinded things to a halt. This isn't a bad thing, I like the way they do the card fights in the old series, but they are very, 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 very slow. And so either you are there for the card fights, or you're not there at all. If you do not care about the card game Cardfight Vanguard, or at least are only just getting into it and don't really know whether or not you'll like it, you're probably not going to stick around for very long. Even known, I do like a lot of the other elements of that series, but like I said, I'm one of the people who thinks it doesn't really get good until Link Joker, so what do I know, right? Whereas Overdress is a series you can totally engage with and interact with regardless of why you're watching. If you like card fights, then, well, I find the card fights enjoyable. If you like character stuff, then there's a lot of really genuinely great character stuff there. If you're a Sakuga nerd, you've got your Sakuga, so on and so forth. But, okay, let's finally address the question though. Does Overdress need a tutorial card fight? Because that's the only thing it's missing now. It doesn't have a tutorial. If it had that tutorial, people would be in. Except, no, that's not how it works. And this is why. Because it slows things down. People that are watching Overdress or are interested in it, you know, those friends that you recommended from earlier, they're probably interested because they really like Danji's personality, right? Or you use the beginning of Yu's character arc, or just the really nice animation and that kind of stuff. If we were to do what the first Vanguard anime did and throw in a two-part tutorial card fight, like a really in-depth one that taught you all the mechanics and stuff, those friends would probably lose interest fast. Because the other group of friends that you recommended the 2011 anime to also lost interest fast. That's me making assumptions here, but they're assumptions that seem to make sense, right? Like, the fast pacing of the Overdress anime is explicitly what makes it beginner friendly, and so by adding a tutorial that slows the pacing of the anime down, you are losing the very thing that does make it beginner friendly. And the reason for that is because that pacing is what makes the series good. Now again, you can argue that you think the car fights in general are too fast, but I genuinely, at least in these first two episodes, think that works to its favor, not to its detriment. And again, we'll do an entire other video about how good the card fights that do exist are, but I think they're good. So there. I don't know. Is this video good? I don't know. I'm like doing a good job of conveying my point, but basically that's why it doesn't have a card fight, right? Or at least a tutorial. It doesn't have a tutorial because it's trying to be beginner friendly, right? And having a tutorial is actually going to scare people away more so than it's going to attract people. You're attracting new fans by going, hey look, it's the new Clamp anime. You want to see an anime made by the people who worked on Code Geass? You're not saying, hey, you want to sit down and watch an hour-long tutorial? You're not. You're not. You know how this works. If you're misunderstanding my point here, then you're probably actively trying to misunderstand my point. And guess what? If you do want to recommend people Cardfight Vanguard and want a overly long and drawn out tutorial in the anime, then just show them the 2011 series, but don't show them the reboot. And, okay, so that begs the question though. Okay, you show your friend the Vanguard Overdress anime, and they enjoy it. They can't follow along with the card fights or anything because they don't know anything about the card game, but they enjoy the characters and the plot building and all that other stuff. Now what? I will show you now what. So there's a video that the Vanguard channel uploaded in between the first and second episode of the anime, and yeah. See, people aren't idiots. At least I'd like to think people are not idiots. If people see that first episode of Vanguard Overdress and are interested in the card game, then they'll probably see that this video was uploaded immediately afterwards and watch it. And this video, I've seen it myself, does a very good job of giving you the basics of the card game very, very, very quickly without losing any of your attention. And it's optional, so if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to. It's great. Because that's the thing, not every anime has to stand on its own 100%. It's like if you tried to recommend someone start the Marvel movies with Endgame. It's like, you don't do that. And that's why I'm saying that you should interweave the process of learning the card game alongside watching the anime. I'm not saying it's exactly like the Endgame thing where I recommend you literally consume every single piece of Vanguard media before you start Overdress. What I'm saying is that you should watch episode 1 of Overdress, look at the Sakuga scene and go, ooh, that card game looks cool, and then you should watch this. And then you should read this as it loads. Here we go. And then you should read this, this PDF that's freely available on the official Vanguard website that teaches you how to play. And then, card game advert, you should buy this and play some games. This anime, whether you like it or not, this anime was never meant to stand on its own. I know one of the biggest and most popular pieces of praise for this anime is that it is, quote-unquote, not a card game advert anymore. And to some extent, I kind of agree with the point you're making, because you're making a thing where it's like, it's valuing artistic integrity more than it is selling a product. But at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, it is still selling a product. And it's not supposed to exist in a vacuum. It's supposed to be released alongside these start decks and advertise those start decks. And so there's this expectation that if you watch the anime and you enjoy it, you are going to engage with it. It is not the anime's job to do all the heavy lifting on its own. You cannot just watch the entirety of this anime and expect to get all of the satisfaction from it. If you're a casual fan, you should go in with the expectation that you'll only be getting some of it. And that's not a bad thing. I know people who have started this anime and don't know much about the card game or anything and have still enjoyed it. But if you want to get the full extent of the enjoyment and understanding of everything, then you must become a fan of the card game. This is what makes it art, because it means that if you are different people get different things out of it. If you're a casual fan, you'll think that Megami or Seto are cute, and you'll really like Yu Yu and Danji's Adventures. If you are someone who is already a fan of the card game, or someone who is learning the card game, then you get the satisfaction of knowing, hey, look, they're doing things and I understand them, right? And I'm not saying that not being able to understand it makes it bad. I think it's actually very good in the way that it's crafted, that you get different experiences depending on who you are. If you're someone who watches the second episode and doesn't understand the card fight, but then you buy Yu Yu's deck and you play a few games with it, and you slowly learn to play with it, and then you go back and rewatch episode 2, there is a satisfaction to that, and that satisfaction is valid. That's one of the things that makes the show good. That is something that you don't really get from the 2011 anime, because that stuff is spoon-fed to you. I think that there is a positive to making the anime a little bit less accessible in regards to understanding everything. I think by making this series something that's very, very easy to get into, but something you have to work towards to get the full understanding out of it, makes it better art. And I got, for some reason, incredibly passionate about saying that. Basically, the long and short of it is that you are supposed to engage with art. When you look at a painting, you're supposed to consider what the meaning of that painting was and why the artist used the techniques that they used to paint it. And that may make me sound pretentious, but it's true. Analyzing art makes art fun. And the cool thing about the Overdress anime is that you can interact with it and it rewards you for doing so. You can put on the English dub of the 2011 anime on YouTube and even in a playlist, and so it just autoplays from one episode to the next, and you can have a fun afternoon. But by interacting with and engaging with and taking each episode of Overdress on its own and actually experiencing the card game and looking into things on yourself, you can come back to Overdress and understand it all that much more and be more enriched because of that. And that's not just the card game, that's all the other elements too. You can look into Clamp's character design philosophies. You can learn more about how animation is made and how the Sakuga was done in the Overdress episode. Seriously, I've had more fun going through the Sakuga scene in episode 1 frame by frame, looking at every single little frame and analyzing all the little cool details and stuff they've added. I've had more fun doing that than I did watching the entirety of the V-Series reboot. Overdress is a good series because it rewards you for engaging with it. Good art is something you should engage with and not just something that you just put on and eat food while you have it on. And obviously that's not me saying that the other anime is bad by any means, because it's accomplishing exactly what it wants to accomplish. But I'm saying that you can engage with Overdress on a deeper meaning, and by not having the tutorial and by rewarding you for going off and doing your own research, that makes it a better show. And you do not need to agree with me. In fact, I encourage you to disagree with me. But that is what I like about Overdress, is it's beginner friendly in that you can put it on and enjoy it and become interested in the franchise by watching the nice action scene and everything. But you don't become a true, but you get the most heightened enjoyment out of it by going off and doing your own homework and actually playing the game. And that's basically all I have to say. Again, I don't know how much of this rant came off as again, I started talking about it, and I remember the first few minutes of what I said, but then I kind of just blanked out and just went on this passionate rant about the meaning of art. But you know what? That's the thing I like about the Overdress anime, is it can make me go on passionate rants about the meaning of art. Because art isn't just consumed in a vacuum. You have to think about how and why it's made. And the cool thing about Overdress is we are living in a digital internet age. Anime isn't just something you catch random episodes in, out of order, really late night on a dodgy channel. It's something that you can look into, and it's something that you can research and interact with, and my McAfee's going off. And I think that by not giving you everything, that makes it better. And yes, that makes me the most pretentious person on the world, but I think that, I don't know, I just think the act of encouraging you to engage with the other facets of the franchise in a natural feeling way is good, because you can still enjoy the series by not playing the card game, but you enjoy it that much more by playing the card game. It's basically beginner friendly, but also rewards the fans. It's like low floor, high ceiling is, I guess, the what it's called in a fighting game, where a fighting game is super easy to get into and start having fun with and playing, but it's also got that super high ceiling, so if you really want to go and learn it, you can go and do that. And I think that makes Overdress good and unique too, because I'm sure there are other animes and series that do similar things, but I think that this has been implemented in a way that makes it genuinely really great, and so I feel a little frustrated by seeing people miss the point of that entirely. And that's all I really have to say. I should probably stop now before this video becomes a half an hour rant about this. So yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment with your disagreements. I will read them, for sure. Yeah, and remember, for every statement there's an asterisk. And I'll see you later with more videos soon.